Recently, I developed some templates for these print-at-home animal puppets that you can use with children. I thought I'd make this video to show you how you can make them, as well as how they could be used to help educate about our animals and the conservation issues that face them. You're welcome to use this video as guidance for your own activities, or you could buy the templates from my Etsy shop using the link that's in the video description if you want to follow along with me at home. Let's start with Florence the Fox. Florence has had a tough time of it recently, narrowly escaping an illegal fox hunt, but now she's raising 3 cubs in her den. Start by printing off the template. The Etsy download that I've included has a guide for your hand shape. If your hand fits in this template, then the puppet should fit you as well. If it's not the right size, then you can scale the file sizes down until it reaches your hand size once you've printed it off, and then the puppets that are on the other files, when they're also scaled down to that size, should fit as well. Once you've got the template printed off, it's time to colour it in. You can follow a fox's real markings like I have, or you can have some fun with the colours and the patterns. Next, it's time to follow the guide to cut out the template. The black outlines should be cut out without cutting into any of the shapes yet. Then cut out these grey sections with a cross marked inside them. Find the rest of the grey lines and cut them in from the outside. For the fox template, these are 2 at the ears and 2 at the cheeks of the face. Now it's time to fold. Fold all the dotted grey lines towards you, like this. Then fold all the gold dotted lines away from you, like this. For the tail part, these are all the folds that you should have. For the body part, these are all the folds you should have. And for the head part, these are the folds that you should have. The glue goes on the top of the blue parts, but under the green parts. Start with the head. Spread glue on 2 sections on one side. Fold the cheek, then fold under the chin. Do the same on the other side. Then glue under the neck section and stick it to the chin part. Then glue the end of the body part and place the tail part on top. Your Florence the Fox is now ready to wear. Put a finger through the hole, then wrap the tail part around your wrist. The folded part should fold up through the hole at the end so it stays on your hand. Like her fellow foxes, Florence is great at living in any part of the country. Some of her siblings found homes in a local town where they raid leftovers, hunt rats, and sleep in gardens. Florence found her home in a wood that borders a country park. She usually comes out at night to eat rabbits and berries, then takes the leftovers back to her cubs in their den. There are no big roads nearby, so she isn't at risk of being run over when she goes looking for food. Her biggest threat is the local fox hunt. Fox hunting is illegal in England, Scotland, and Wales, due to the method of a fox being attacked by a pack of dogs being deemed as cruel. However, some groups see it as an important part of their culture, so they still hunt in secret. One of these groups lives near Florence, so she has to be very careful to avoid them. Foxes are thought to be doing quite well in the UK, partly due to being able to survive in most places, so the best way to continue to help them is to make sure that the natural spaces they occupy continue to be protected. The next puppet is Brayden the Badger. Badgers find it a bit harder than foxes to live where people are, so Brayden and his clan of 6 live deep in a woodland. Like with Florence, make sure to print out the right size template, colour it in, and then cut it out. Brayden only has 2 cut marks to make by his cheeks. His tail has these folds. His body has these folds. And his head has these folds. His head is glued in the same way as Florence, making sure to fasten his cheeks, then his chin on one side before repeating it on the other. Then attach the body to the head part and the tail to the body part. Attach him to your hand in the same way that you did with Florence, then you're ready to talk about Brayden. Brayden lives underground in a huge network of tunnels and chambers known as a set. This place is very special because it was passed down by members of his family for the last 80 years. He was born here, will live here his whole life, and his sister's offspring will also grow up here. His own babies will be raised by females in neighbouring sets, but he will stay living here and make sure it's maintained so that future generations can use it. There is a very serious threat facing Brayden and all of his family members. Badgers can carry an illness known as bovine tuberculosis, or BTB. This illness is also found in cows and can mean that whole herds of cattle can't be sold for meat, which damages a farmer's ability to get money and damages the food industry as a whole in the UK. One solution that people have come up with is to get rid of the badgers, but there's no evidence that this works, and there's actually might be some evidence that it could make the problem worse. Brayden doesn't carry BTB, but some of his neighbours do. If his family is wiped out, it leaves room for his neighbours to move in, and this spreads the disease further than it originally was. The best way to help badgers like Brayden is to support research into this disease, to find the most effective ways to stop it, and to advocate for vaccinating both cattle and badgers against BTB, so that this can act as a barrier to stop the disease spread. The third puppet is Patrick the Pine Marten. Patrick has exactly the same spots for cutting and folding as Brayden did, so you can follow his steps again. Patrick is a very special boy. Pine martens were almost wiped out in the UK, but they clung on in isolated patches of deep woodland. Now, thanks to people trying to help them, they're making a comeback. Patrick's ancestors were some of the pine martens clinging on in Scotland, but he was one of 18 pine martens chosen to be moved all the way down to the south of England to reintroduce them to a forest there. He had a collar put on so scientists could use satellites to track his movements, and then he found himself a territory in the forest. Now he gets to spend his days using holes in ancient trees as his dens and finding mice and nuts for food. Once he has offspring, they will continue the important work of making sure our woodland food chain is unbroken by making sure there are predators jumping between our trees rather than just on our floor. Pine martens like Patrick might even be helping other rare species like the red squirrels. They can help them find a home here again by eating invading grey squirrels, which frees up space for the smaller and more timid red squirrels to exist. The final puppet that I've made is a template for Whitney the Wildcat. This puppet is a little more complex. Cut out the 3 body parts and then start with the head for the inward cuts. First cut each of the cheeks, then go to the back of the head and cut down each side until you reach the gold line. Turn the scissors a little to follow the grey line and cut it down until it turns into a dotted line. Then make 3 cuts on each side of the grey lines where the green glue marks are. Fold all the lines in the same way as with the other puppets so that you're ready for gluing. Like with the other puppets, start by gluing the cheeks and chins, then fold the ears over and glue them down. For each side of the face, you want to start with the blue glue. Make sure the cheek part fully covers over where the blue glue was. You should have a gap left between the top of the head and the cheek. This will be filled by folding in the remaining flap. Make sure to glue the underside of all of the remaining green bits, then fold the paper under the head and push inwards until the paper aligns with the side of the head. Once you've done this for both sides, you should be able to glue on the neck and the tail pieces as you did with all the other puppets. Whitney the Wildcat is a very rare creature. She is one of only a couple hundred wildcats left alive here, making her part of the most threatened mammal that we have. Although she looks a lot like the cats that we'd keep in our homes, she is actually a completely different species. Wild cats are the only native cat species that we have left here. Our domestic cats were actually imported from elsewhere in the world, making them an invasive species. Unfortunately, Whitney is closely related enough to our cats that most of the wildcats in her area aren't pure wildcats anymore. They are hybrids, and each time a domestic cat joins the family, the less wildcat is left, until one day there may not be any wildcat genes left in these animals at all. There are people working to save Whitney's species, and the best thing that you can do to help them is to learn about wildcats, as well as about how we can be responsible in controlling our domestic cats to make sure that they don't keep having babies with the wildcats. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about these 4 animals and making the puppets of them. If you haven't had the chance yet, remember that you can download these templates for just a couple of quid from my Etsy shop. I'll be back soon with another video about our wildlife.